Dying Light 2's been out for a couple weeks now, and there's a lot of mixed reviews on the game. So in this video, we're going to go over my thoughts of the game and what I think should be added to the game. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the parkour in Dying Light 2. It's a lot more updated. There's a lot of new parkour techniques that you can do, involving fighting enemies or just maneuvering around the city itself. The parkour feels smooth. It feels a lot more realistic. It looks a lot more realistic. Overall, nothing much to complain about. The graphics are overall really good. It looks a lot better than the first game ever did. It looks a lot more realistic, like you're actually running through a city in the middle of an apocalypse. The art style and the shading help make it look a lot better. At first, I did think that it looked kind of like a Telltale game, like The Walking Dead Telltale, but once you play a little more into it, you kind of get used to it, and it looks a lot better and more realistic. So I really do like the graphics and the art style and shading, and appreciate the devs taking their time with that aspect of the game. The next topic I want to cover is the main story. So there are 22 missions in the game if you're just doing campaign, and comparing that to the first game, there were only 13, so it's basically doubled in length. In this story, there's a lot more emotion going around when you are helping the people of the city to survive, and it's different because you can change the city how you want to, instead of it only going one way like the first game did. In this game, there's 5 different endings. There's also a buttload of side missions that you can do compared to the first game. So it keeps you busy while you're playing the story or after the story. One thing that I do like is if you choose not to do side missions during the story before you continue, some of them will actually go away depending on your decisions you make throughout the story, and I like that aspect because it's a hit or miss on if you're helping other people out as well, or if you're just totally screwing everyone over. Like, you cannot go back once you make a decision. So I do like that. The next thing I want to talk about is the combat. So the combat is more smooth regardless of swinging your weapon or hitting an enemy in the game. It just feels and looks overall realistic, and I really do like that. When you're fighting enemies, for example the renegades, you can't just use the same attack over and over. You actually have to switch up your attacks to screw with the enemy's minds a little bit just to win the fight. So I like how they updated the NPCs combat as well, and how they go against your combat. And I do like all the new moves that they added. There's a couple new ones, like the one where you can smash their head in the ground and then jump back onto a roof, for example. I like how they added all of that stuff, and overall, it's really good. Now to get into the nitty-gritty of the game, we're going to talk about some of the stuff that I wish was either fixed or implemented in day one. The first thing is the nighttime in the game. So it's very different from the first one. You actually have to worry about your immunity bar, and you have to worry about howlers that are basically all over the ground floor, and they'll start a chase with you if you get spotted by them. So that's why you have to stay on the rooftops at night. One thing I hate is there's so many howlers all around and not enough other infected. For example, banshees. I've literally only encountered 3. The very beginning mission from the game, and doing a side quest. I found 2 of them in a side quest. Their spawn rate needs to be upped. It needs to spawn more. Volatiles. There's hardly any volatiles at night. There's only a few times that you actually see volatiles, and that's mainly in the story. The other time is when you get in a level 3 or level 4 chase. It's random. But they need to make volatiles, for example, hang out on roofs and guard the roofs of the city, so that way it's a lot scarier and you actually want to go out at night and it feels different than at the day, because right now it's basically daytime just getting in chases, and that's not good enough for a game that took 7 years to make. The next thing I want to talk about are bugs. So this game right now is full of bugs. You can fall through buildings, you can no-clip out the map. I even had a couple bugs happen to me. I had infinite nighttime where it froze at 11 o'clock and I couldn't sleep in a bed to make it morning. I've also had safe zone bugs where there's no UV light and I can't sleep at them. I've had a lot of stuff. It's worse in co-op too, because when you play in co-op, there's some bugs that you can benefit off of, but there's mainly a lot of game-breaking ones. Like I've seen through the whole map before when I played with my one friend, and it just really, it's not good for a game that took 7 years to make. It's got to get better than what it should be. What I hate most is that the game went gold last November, which means that there's no, at least bugs, I think that's what it is, or maybe game-breaking bugs. It's one of the two. But there's all these bugs in the game, and they shouldn't be here. It should have been fixed a long time ago. Again, it took 7 years to make, and they've delayed it over 3 times now. One of them was indefinitely, and they should have had this down before release. If they're not going to implement it, people are going to get bored of this game and move on. The next thing that I hate is that there's no New Game Plus, and for a game that has multiple endings, and a game like this where there's multiple choices you can make, you want to see those through without having to restart your game over and over. And New Game Plus fixes that, where you can keep all your stuff and your perks, and you can enjoy the story again, even on a higher difficulty if you want, and go through the story and do different paths. But that's something that's not in the game yet, which needs to be implemented right now. Another thing is, I don't think that there's enough perks in the game. For a game that took this long to make, I think that there should be a lot more perks, because right now, there's about the same amount of perks that there were in the first game, and not enough actually from the first game that came into this game. For example, in the first game, you could drop on top of a zombie and stab your weapon through them, and it was an insta-kill no matter what. And I wish that there were perks like that in this game, because it would first off be adding off from the first game, like adding those perks to this game, plus making new ones, which makes you have a lot more techniques that you can use, and overall a lot more fun. Like, in the first game, you could camouflage yourself with zombie guts. You can't in this game. In the first game, you could craft a shield, but you can't in this game. There's just a lot of stuff that I wish was implemented, because people would have a lot more fun with this game than they currently are. Last but not least, I want to talk about the end of the story. So this is kind of a spoiler alert, so if you don't want to hear spoilers, you guys should click off. But I don't like how they added so much action with the nukes right at the end of the game, and then all this crazy stuff that's happened at the end of the game. Like, it's good, right? But it feels rushed because it's all right at the end of the game. It's not spread out throughout the story, kind of like the first game was with Rise with the file. He had it, and then you were trying to get it, and then the doctor got kidnapped, and you wanted to go and save him while trying to get the file off of Rise, and it all, I just thought that the end of this game kind of compacted it and was rushed. And it doesn't help that knowing they took a lot of stuff out, because there's a couple weapons that they took out, and I'm sure there's a lot of story stuff they took out, because I would have figured this game would have been longer. Because for what it is, I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong, but it took so long to make, I kind of would expect it to have more choices and more missions than 22. I mean, again, don't get me wrong, it's better than 13 missions like the first game, but I just kind of wish it was a little longer. Anyways, guys, that's my review on Dying Light 2, just talking about stuff I wish was implemented and fixed, and stuff that I like. So if you guys liked what I had to say, like the video and feel free to subscribe, and hope you guys have a great day, and stay human.